I figured some of you might wish to learn about metaprograms. Ooh, how would you like to learn about metaprograms today? Now, you might be somebody who studied a bit of NLP. You might be somebody who's not. You might be somebody who knows about metaprograms. You might be somebody who hasn't, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to start from the very beginning today and make sure y'all understand what I'm talking about. I want to make sure that y'all all get what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's my attempt at rapping. I hope everyone is well. Right. So, quick introduction to what we're talking. Well, I suppose an introduction to me, and then what we're talking about today. Um, so my name is Darren Shaw. I'm a neurolinguistic programming practitioner. I've been doing so for about 23 years. Sometimes I use the designation of master or trainer or something like that. So I'm really, really geeky, really love this NLP stuff, as some of you may well know. And I'm here to talk to you about, neurolinguistic programming and metaprograms specifically today. I mean, what else would you want to do on a Friday night? Yeah, what else would you want to do on a Friday night other than learn about NLP metaprograms? You know you're in the right place, right? You know you're in the right place. Okay, so let's make this as fun as possible as well. So let's talk about what are metaprograms. Well, us lovely human beings, we have underlying programming inside our unconscious minds, subconscious minds, whatever you want to call it, that basically run the show, that control our behavior. I'll give you a very simple example of a continuum. There are some people that prefer to move away from pain, and there are other people that prefer to move towards pleasure. So some people prefer moving towards pleasure, some people prefer moving towards away from pain. You've got some people that are a combination of the two, but usually it's one or the other, and it's context dependence. You know, you could well be somebody who, when you're having fun, maybe you're moving towards pleasure and away from any kind of pain. You're just mainly focused on moving towards pleasure. But maybe in relationships, you still got a couple of relationship issues to clean up, which means you're often moving away from pain and you still got some issues around pain. But then you might jump into a different context around work, where in work you're trying to be as balanced as possible towards pleasure, away from pain. Now, the pain pleasure continuum, one side to the other, that's an example of a meta program. Now, I tend to find, not just me, but anyone that's investigated this part of things, we tend to find in NLP that people generally are unaware of their meta program. Generally unaware of their meta program. But is it not useful to understand what the underlying programs are that drive our behavior? By the way, welcome, Jordan. Such a pleasure to have you here. Hello, hello, hello. Awagwan. So that's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about meta programs, and I'm going to break them down and talk about a couple of them. I'm not going to go through every single meta program in the world. That would be a bit nuts. But just sort of breaking down what these things are about and what meta programs there are, which ones have been delineated in the field of neuro linguistic programming. So I've already described one, towards and away from. But how about we go just a little bit deeper and talk about another one? Another type of meta program is okay, I don't want to go too deep. I've got a couple here in front of me. Another type of meta program is orientation in time. Ooh. Some people are very, very orientated, and again, this is all context dependent. Remember that. But some people are very orientated towards always focusing on the past all the time, and that's where they prefer to be. They prefer to focus on the past. Some people prefer to live in the moment and be very present time focused, and other people prefer to live more in the future. That's me. I'm quite often called deluded. I love living in the future. It's much more better sometimes than the present, but then sometimes it's better to live in the present. I mean, there's certain activities which I would argue that you don't really want to be living in the past or past or future for, and you want to more live in the present. So that's a type of meta programming, orientation in time. Orientation in time. So I ask you, when your mind wanders, where does it go? Past, present, future, you know? And one way to tell somebody's orientation in time is to listen to the temporal predicates that they use, the verb forms that they use. If somebody's constantly talking about what I did, what I'd done, what I've achieved, and they're constantly talking in the past tense, then that's really obvious, right? So that's a type of metaprogram, orientation in time. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to ask any questions or say anything about anything that I'm saying, then feel free to put something in the room chat and just copy what Jordan did. Hi, Jordan. Jordan just put something in the chat thing because she feels comfortable. If anyone wants to raise their hand and come to the stage, feel free to absolutely do so as well. Another metaprogram is another type of orientation in time. So there's two time metaprograms. One is the one I just said. The other orientation to time is some people are more in time and some people are more through time. Okay. This is the difference between being associated in time, living in the moment and enjoying things as they happen and living their life like that. Some people are really, really like that. And other people prefer to live unconsciously through time. Through time is whereby you're sort of imagining, well, you're sort of seeing things happen, but you still see it kind of like as a timeline that you're perceiving as things, time's going by past you. People that are associated in time will be more emotionally expressive, and they'll gesture to the future in front and the past behind. Usually, it's not always the case, but usually, if they're dissociated and disconnected from time, they'll be less expressive and tend to gesture to the past on one side and the future on another. So that's a thing worth just being aware of. Again, this is another type of metaprogram. So these metaprograms are referred to as orientation in time, that's the past, present, future. Or the other one was orientation to time, which is somebody who's in time versus through time. I'm not expecting you to remember all these things, but it's useful to know that there are these distinctions. And then when you listen to people and you listen to the words that they say, you can tell almost immediately where their head is at. Now, in my job where I coach people and help people to shift away from problematic thinking to more solutions-based thinking, quite often when I'm listening to people, I'm listening to kind of language in that they're using. And if they're stuck in the past, sometimes I have to do little things to help them shift their orientation so that they can be more either in the present or be aware of their goals that are out in the future in some way, shape, or form. No, that wasn't a yawn while I was talking. You just made that up in your own mind, or did I just inform myself? Who knows? I'm going to give you one more metaprogram. And this one is a reason metaprogram. Reason metaprogram. Again, these are on continuums, on spectrums. Some people are more options type people. They want freedom to do things in a variety of different ways. And some people are more procedures type people. Procedures type people, they want step-by-step instructions for how to do things, Neither is better or worse than the other, but these are distinctions. So some people more options, some people more procedures, and that slides up and down a continuum. People respond to procedures, again, in two ways. Either they're good at following procedures, but weak on creating and changing them, or they're good at creating and changing them, but they're weak on following them. And again, it seems to be a spectrum. And the diagnostic cues for this is that options people will give you the reasons why they did what they did. And procedures people will tell you what they did or how they did it. And the best way to elicit that kind of information out of somebody is just by asking a question such as, why did you choose X? Why did you choose X? If you say something like, why did you choose X? People start giving you reasons, and the reasons that they give you will either reflect options or procedures, or sometimes you'll find a mixture of the two. Right, I don't want to bombard you and overwhelm you with a million bloody meta programs here today, but there's a part of me that's just feeling really, really, really generous, and I'm just gonna give you one more And this particular meta program is a reference meta program, so the reference meta program. And this is where this is. Have you ever noticed that some people, they like to refer to themselves a lot while they're talking about things? I this, I that, and what I think, and what me, I, me, I, me. These are self-reference people. Nothing wrong with it. It's just it is what it is. Self-reference people. Self-reference people evaluate things in terms of what they think is appropriate. Then you got the other type of person, forgive the pun, who is an other type person. Other reference people evaluate things in terms of what they think that others think is appropriate. And the diagnostic cues for this is self-reference people will tell you what they think, and when pressed, they will tell you they just know it, or it just feels right. Other reference people will tell you that they know because other people or outside sources tell them. Okay. And again, it's very useful to understand or delineate whether somebody is an other person or a self person, because it will define the way that you speak to them and what you communicate with them about. If you're coaching them or communicating with them or whatever. One of the questions that I use to elicit information for people to tell which thing they are would be, how do you know? How do you know that you chose the right X? How do you know that how do you know that you chose the right partner? If somebody says, well, there's a sort of person I could take home to my mother, that'll tell you something about their reference. Is that self or other? If somebody said, oh, it just felt right and I just felt it in the moment, then that's obviously more reference to themselves. Again, remember that everything that I talk about in regards to meta programs is always context dependent. It's always good to make sure you know in what context a person is talking about or around a particular thing. Should I give him one more? Do you know what? I haven't been there that long, so I think have we got time for one more? Yeah, I promised myself that I was going to do 20 minutes today. For those of you that don't already know, I am currently in the European Union. I'm in the EU at the moment. I got out of Britain 2 days ago, and I've been chilling and hanging around in Holland. Oi, 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 Holland. Trying to learn Dutch words, very, very slow, but trying to learn. So I'm out here at the moment. Doing a whole bunch of NLP stuff, and as per usual, I'm here on Clubhouse. Some of you might notice this is an hour earlier than my usual time. It's a little bit after midnight, midnight, here in the Netherlands at the moment, and I believe for those of you in Eastern Standard Time, it's probably about 6 o'clock or something like that. Yeah, probably about 6. Yeah, correct. So yeah, on a different vibe today. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Right, let me give you. I'm going to give you one more example of a meta program. Another example of a meta program is a stress response meta program. Now, this is very useful, especially if you're working with people who have experienced some kind of trauma, or they haven't fully connected with a particular subject or whatever it is. Now, this is another kind of continuum-y type thing, or sometimes it's a bit digital. You can have somebody who's associated or somebody who is more disassociated in stressful situations. Associated people experience stressful situations fully in first person perspective. Dissociated people adopt a distanced third person perspective. They detach from the situation massively, and they look at the situation as if it's happened out there in front of them or to the left of them or above them or whatever it is. Associated people deal with the stress by really, really fully experiencing it. Associated people will have a stronger emotional response about situations. So that's a diagnostic cue. Associated people have a stronger emotional response about a situation. A dissociated person will talk in a matter-of-fact manner about things, very matter-of-fact manner about things. So that's one of the ways to diagnose these sorts of things. And the kind of question that you can ask to elicit that kind of information would be something like, what X gives you problems? So what situation gives you problems, or what person gives you problems, or what thing gives you problems? And the way that somebody talks about that after answering such a question will give you a bit of an insight as to whether the person is more an associated person or a dissociated person. And again, this is the stress response meta program. Now, in the field of neurolinguistic programming, there are around 52 meta programs-ish that have been identified as part of the NLP world. And one of the things that's very, very rarely spoken about, because NLP is a very sort of masculine thing generally. It was developed mainly by a group of men who were really, really screwed up, and they had mummy issues and daddy issues and life issues and issues with being very detached from the American system, because they went to war and they saw lots of people dying, and they came back to America after the Vietnam War, one or two of them, thinking, what the hell did I just go kill lots of people for? I don't understand. So there was that, and there's some people that really needed some really, really deep psychiatric help, but they couldn't get it. And there was one guy that was just a linguistics professor, and he just thought all these people were weird, but he'd hang out with them for about 8-9 years or whatever. So neuro-linguistic programming was mainly made up by men, but the good news for some of you ladies out here is metaprograms. The concept of metaprograms was actually developed by the first wife of Richard Bandler, who used to be involved in a lot of the trainings. A lot of people talk about neuro-linguistic programming. They talk about John Grinder and Richard Bandler, for those of you who know those names. I hope the noise in my background wasn't too bad. It was somebody racing along on a motorbike out here in Den Haag. But yeah, the concept of metaprograms was actually developed by a lady called Leslie Cameron Banda, and she was one of the more powerful forces within NLP. But nobody ever speaks about her. I wonder why. Apparently, it was a bit of a messy divorce between Leslie and her husband. Again, he was one of the founders of Richard Banda. He was one of the founders of NLP. So it is what it is with these sorts of things. A little bit messy. Hello, Lois. Hello, how are you? I hope you are well. Hello. Hello to you too. Woo, woo, woo. I'm on a happy one today. Do you know what? It's funny, yeah? Tell people you're going to Holland. You know what everyone says? Oh, you're going to Amsterdam. I said, no. I said, Holland. Oh, yeah, but you're going to Amsterdam. In neuro-linguistic programming, just in case any of you is interested in this sort of stuff on certain things, there's this concept called a complex equivalence. A complex equivalence is when, as far as you're concerned, one thing means another thing. I have a friend and he has 2 cars. That means he must be rich. That's an example of a complex equivalence. When somebody says that one thing means another thing. I tell people I'm going to Holland. To a lot of people, that means I'm going to smoke lots of green drugs or take magic mushrooms or all of these other things that you can do in Amsterdam, which is miles and miles and miles away from me. Don't know why you're putting your hands in the air, Jordan. But it's interesting because when I tell people that I'm going to Holland, and they automatically go into this internal trance, go in on the inside, and they start making decisions about what I'm over here for. It's freaking mad. When actually I'm in a lovely, quiet, very, very lovely Islamic area of Den Haag. It's really lovely here. I went bike riding earlier on. Had some natural fruit juice. I bought a cake which I thought was one thing, and then I opened it from the packet and it was another thing, which was a bit irritating. But I had a lovely, lovely Dutch cream cake earlier on, which I didn't intend to buy because I thought it was something else. Where it had cream, I thought it was sponge. Go figure. From now on, every time I buy a cake out here, I will look at it and inspect it closely, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's a very useful concept within neuro-linguistic programming that can help you and help you to help others. The concept of complex equivalence. Where else might that be useful in NLP coaching perspective? I don't know, if somebody comes to me and says, my business has failed, I am a failure. My business has failed, I am a failure. That is a complex equivalence. Just because your business has failed, it doesn't make you a failure. But if you're saying that one thing equals the other thing, that automatically is what we call a complex equivalence. Now, you might hear me repeating this concept every now and again. That's because it's useful, and it can take a little while to get on board as something as worth understanding and using. The more you understand complex equivalence, the more you can be able to solve certain problems in life. And quite often as human beings, and we all do this, it's a natural thing we do as human beings, we say that one thing equals another thing. My bank account is empty. That means I'm poor. That's a complex equivalent. Does bank account empty have to mean poor? Could you not be rich in like other ways or whatever? Do you know what I mean? So complex equivalence, very, very useful. And it also feeds into the metaprograms thing. I haven't really gone too much into how that feeds into the metaprograms thing, just because it can be a bit overcomplicated when you go into some of these things. But it's worth understanding the concept of a complex equivalent. Jordan's given me a red love heart. That means that she is loving what I'm saying. This may be true. It may be not. Who knows? Oh, got the hands up. That means she's really loving it. I have no idea. Um, so I hope this makes sense. Sorry, I'm eating a banana at the moment, which is why I'm going to leave you in a moment. I've been staring at this banana for a little while, and this banana equals happiness. This banana equals happiness. That's a lovely complex equivalence that I'm going to go with because it actually benefits me in life. But most complex equivalences often don't. Num, 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 num. On that note, Solomon, really? Solomon, there are ladies present. Solomon, seriously, there are ladies present. That's not funny. Oh my God, Jordan, I want to be careful what I say. Your husband might be with you. Bloody Jordan, really? Oh my God. Solomon, you see what you freaking started, you freaking nut job. Solomon, you're not funny. That's it. Do you know what? I've been too generous to you lot here on a Friday evening for most of you, I think.